The town of Everstead was like a picture frozen in time. Its cobblestone streets gleamed under the faint glow of streetlights, and the soft hum of the town's clock tower ticked away unnoticed by most. On any other night, Everstead would be peacefully silent, its houses nestled under the watchful stars. But tonight, something was different. On the top floor of a small house near the edge of the town square, a boy named Oliver sat motionless at his desk. His lamp flickered faintly, casting shadows that seemed to stretch and retreat across the walls. In front of him lay something he could not explain, a small silver key that shimmered faintly, as if alive. He hadn't seen it before, hadn't left his window open for it to arrive, and yet here it was. Beside the key was a folded note, its edges slightly worn. Oliver hesitated before picking it up. His fingers trembled as he unfolded it, revealing a single line written in careful, looping letters. "The answer you seek lies in the tower. Midnight." His breath caught. He hadn't told anyone about his question, not even his closest friends. And yet, as he sat there in the quiet of his room, it felt as though the note was written just for him. What answer? What did the key unlock? The soft ticking of his clock seemed louder now, counting down the minutes to midnight. Oliver turned the key over in his hand, its cool metal pressing into his palm. He glanced out the window at the clock tower rising tall and shadowed in the distance, its faint light flickering like a beacon. For a moment, he hesitated, but the pull was undeniable. Something was waiting for him, and he couldn't ignore it. What would you do if you found a key that didn't belong to you? Would you follow its call? Tonight, we'll join Oliver as he steps into the unknown, tracing the threads of a mystery that could change everything he thought he knew. So settle in, little dreamer. This is where the story begins. Oliver was an ordinary boy in most ways. He didn't have any grand ambitions, nor did he long for adventure like the characters in the books he loved so much. He was content with his quiet, predictable life in Everstead. His room, tucked away in the top corner of the house, was a cozy little haven filled with soft light, shelves of books, and stacks of sketch pads. His drawings, stories of distant lands and creatures of his imagination, were scattered all around, hidden from the world. He didn't share them with anyone. They were just his own private escape. But tonight was different. Oliver's fingers brushed the key once more, feeling its cool, almost unnatural smoothness. It felt heavier than it should have, like it carried the weight of something long forgotten. As it rested in his palm, a faint pulse seemed to emanate from it, rhythmic and steady, almost like a heartbeat. He slipped it into his pocket, as if hiding it away would stop its quiet insistence on being noticed. But it didn't stop. The house around him seemed smaller than it usually did, almost stifling. It was late, and the street outside was silent, save for the occasional rustle of leaves in the breeze. Yet something in the air felt different, charged with an electric sense of anticipation. Oliver stood up from his desk, the chair creaking softly under him. He walked over to the window, pulling the curtains aside to look outside. The town of Everstead, usually so quiet and serene, now appeared transformed. The lampposts that lined the cobblestone streets glowed brighter than they ever had before, casting a golden halo across the cobbles below. Even the trees seemed to stand a little taller, as if waiting for something. And there, at the far end of the town square, was the clock tower, the heart of Everstead. It stood tall and imposing against the night sky, its clock face glowing faintly as though beckoning him closer. Oliver could feel his heart quicken. The clock tower, ever present in the town, had always been a part of the backdrop to his life. He'd never really paid much attention to it before, but tonight it felt different. He couldn't explain why, but the tower seemed to draw him in, its glow a silent invitation. The note had said, "The answer you seek lies in the tower. Midnight." The words repeated in his mind, over and over, like a gentle whisper in the back of his thoughts. His house was small, nestled comfortably among rows of other modest homes, each with its own soft light glowing from within. From his window, Oliver could see the familiar streets of Everstead, the paths he'd walked 1,000 times, each corner a part of his routine. But now, as the town stretched before him under the blanket of night, it seemed full of possibilities, full of something hidden just beneath the surface. The cobblestone streets seemed to whisper their own secrets, and the lampposts, like silent sentinels, flickered with an energy that made him shiver. What if I don't go? Oliver thought for a moment, but even as the thought entered his mind, he knew it was impossible to ignore the pull. This was no ordinary night. The key, the note, the tower, they had to mean something. Oliver felt the stirrings of something deep inside, a curiosity, yes, but also an undeniable pull toward the unknown. It was as though the universe itself was urging him to take a step forward, to uncover what had been hidden all this time. And though a small part of him was filled with hesitation, a bigger part of him, the part that had always longed for something more, was already moving toward the door. As he stood there by the window, feeling the cool night air on his skin, the quiet ticking of the clock in his room grew louder, more insistent. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Each second passing as if it were leading him toward something, toward an answer he couldn't quite grasp. His gaze shifted from the clock tower back to the key in his pocket. It felt like the beginning of something important. But what? What if the key unlocks something I'm not ready to see? Oliver wondered, but the thought was fleeting. He had already made up his mind. The question wasn't whether he would go. It was what would happen when he did. And in that moment, the quiet town of Everstead, its secrets hidden just beneath the surface, seemed to hold its breath, waiting for him to step into the unknown. As Oliver stepped outside, the night wrapped around him like a soft blanket, cool and heavy with the weight of uncertainty. The town of Everstead, though still, wasn't silent. There were sounds, small and faint, if you listened closely. The distant hoot of an owl, the soft rustling of the leaves in the breeze, and the occasional creak of a weathered sign swinging on its hinges. These sounds, so familiar and so ordinary, somehow felt out of place now, as though the world was holding its breath. Oliver's footsteps echoed against the cobblestones as he began walking, each step deliberate and measured. The key in his pocket seemed to grow warmer with each passing moment, as if it were alive, guiding him. He could feel its presence, urging him forward. It wasn't like any key he had ever touched before. There was something about it that made him question everything he thought he knew about this quiet town. Was it truly as simple as it seemed? Or was something hidden beneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered? As Oliver continued down the winding streets, the world around him seemed to shift. The familiar buildings, the shops he had passed countless times, now appeared different in the pale glow of the moonlight. He had walked this route many times before, but tonight, everything felt new, even a little unsettling. The bookstore at the corner of the street caught his eye, a warm, welcoming place in the daylight hours. But tonight, there was something strange about it. The shelves inside seemed to shimmer under the moonlight, and for just a brief moment, Oliver could have sworn the books were rearranging themselves, shifting positions as if guided by an unseen hand. He blinked, and the moment was gone, leaving him to wonder if he had imagined it. But the feeling lingered, like a ripple in the air that hadn't quite settled. He shook his head, pressing forward, his thoughts swirling with questions. Was this just his imagination running wild? Or was there something else at play in Everstead tonight? His hand tightened around the key in his pocket, and he pushed the thought aside. He wasn't the kind of person to believe in magic. Not really. But what was happening tonight? It felt different. The very air seemed charged with a kind of anticipation that he couldn't explain. At the edge of the town square, the soft glow of a small fountain caught his eye. It had always been a peaceful spot in the center of Everstead, where the water trickled gently in the daylight, surrounded by flowers and the occasional passerby. But tonight, it seemed otherworldly. The water shimmered under the lamplight, glowing faintly as though infused with something beyond the natural. And as Oliver approached, he thought he heard a soft, musical hum, as if the fountain itself were singing. He paused, staring at the water, his mind racing, trying to make sense of the sound, but as quickly as it had appeared, it faded, leaving only the soft trickling of the fountain behind. Oliver stood there for a moment, his breath catching. Was it just his imagination? Or had something truly strange just occurred? He felt the key in his pocket pulse once again, its warmth spreading through him, urging him to move on. The gentle hum of the fountain, the shimmer of the books in the window, all seemed to beckon him toward something he wasn't sure he was ready to find. But with each passing moment, it became clearer that there was no turning back now. He had to know what awaited him at the clock tower. Had he walked this path before, or was this the first time he was truly seeing it for what it was? The clock tower stood ahead now, looming tall and steady, its faint glow brighter than ever before. As the minutes ticked by, the pull of the tower grew stronger. The note had said, "Midnight is your moment," and Oliver could feel the weight of those words like a pressure building inside him. Midnight was almost here. His heart raced in his chest as he approached the base of the tower, his every step echoing in the quiet town. He paused for a moment, looking up at the tower's clock face, which was slowly ticking toward the fateful hour. What would happen when the clock struck 12? Should I be here? Oliver thought, doubt creeping in for the first time since he had left the safety of his room. He had always been a curious boy, but this was something else entirely. The tower, the key, the note. It was all leading him somewhere, but he wasn't sure where. And what if he wasn't meant to find what he was looking for? What if the answers he sought were better left untouched? But even as those thoughts filled his mind, another part of him, a quieter, more persistent part, urged him forward. What if this was his chance to finally see the world in a way he had never seen it before? What if the adventure, the mystery, the unknown, was exactly what he needed to grow, to understand himself better? The key in his pocket pulsed again, a gentle but insistent reminder that the moment was coming. He could feel the clock tower pulling him closer, drawing him toward it with an invisible force that made his pulse quicken. Time was slipping away. Midnight was almost here. The doors of the clock tower were far taller than Oliver remembered, their wooden surface smoothed by the wear of countless years. As he approached, the doors seemed to groan in protest, their hinges creaking under the pressure. With a deep breath, Oliver pushed them open, the sound echoing into the darkened space beyond. What lay ahead? The answer was just out of reach, waiting to unfold in a way he never could have imagined. The interior of the tower was cool and still, the faint hum of the great clock's mechanism reverberating through the air like a distant heartbeat. It was quiet, eerily quiet, except for the rhythmic ticking that filled the room, pulling Oliver's focus to the staircase ahead. A spiral staircase wound upward, its steps worn smooth by years of use, each one telling the story of countless souls who had passed through before him. Oliver hesitated only briefly before he placed one foot on the first step, his heart racing in anticipation. The key in his pocket, once warm, now felt heavier, as though it carried the weight of something more significant than just an ordinary object. With every step he took, the air around him seemed to thicken, the rhythm of the clock growing louder and more pronounced, almost as though it were syncing with the beat of his own heart. The world outside, the familiar streets of Everstead, had fallen away, leaving only the echoing steps of his journey toward the unknown. Oliver's thoughts were a whirlwind, but his feet remained steady, climbing ever upward. The staircase seemed endless, yet somehow he knew he was nearing the end. The air, cooler now, carried a subtle scent of old wood and dust, but there was something else, something faintly electric in the air, as though something extraordinary was about to happen. At last, the top of the staircase came into view. The room at the peak of the tower was small, bathed in silvery moonlight that filtered through the high windows. Everything was still, save for the quiet ticking that seemed to seep into the very walls. In the center of the room stood an old chest, its surface intricately carved with patterns of stars and moons. The patterns shimmered faintly, their edges blurred in the soft light. The chest looked as though it had been waiting for him, its presence undeniable. Oliver knelt before it, his pulse quickening. The cool metal of the key pressed against his palm as he reached into his pocket. His fingers trembled, just slightly, as they wrapped around the key's smooth edges. It felt like the moment he had been waiting for, though he couldn't explain why. The anticipation seemed to thicken the air around him, making everything feel suspended in time. With a soft click, the key turned in the lock. The chest opened with a sigh, a sound so soft it was almost like a breath being released from deep within the tower. Inside, he found a book. Its cover was smooth and glowed faintly in the moonlight. an ethereal light that seemed to pulse gently in time with his heartbeat. He reached for it, the pages trembling slightly under his fingertips as he opened the cover. The pages of the book were filled with sketches, beautiful, intricate drawings of constellations, rolling landscapes, and faraway places he had never seen. Each page was filled with delicate illustrations, and at the bottom of every drawing were tiny notes written in the same shimmering ink as the note that had accompanied the key. Oliver's eyes scanned the pages, each one more enchanting than the last. There was a sense of magic in these drawings, a sense of wonder that felt like it was speaking directly to him. As his fingers turned the pages slowly, one particular page caught his eye. It was a simple sketch of a star-filled sky with a single note scrawled beneath it. "Dream big. Your imagination is the key." Oliver's breath caught in his throat. The words seemed to echo in his mind, reverberating through him as though they were meant for him alone. For a moment, everything went quiet. The ticking of the clock seemed to fade, the air around him thickening, as though time itself had momentarily stopped. Oliver closed his eyes and let the words settle into his heart. This was the moment of understanding he had been waiting for, though he hadn't even known what he was looking for until now. It wasn't just about the key. It wasn't about the note or the chest or the adventure he had undertaken. The answer, as it turned out, had been inside him all along. The magic he had been searching for wasn't hidden in some secret place. It was in his own mind, in his ability to imagine, to dream, and to create. The key was a symbol, a reminder that the greatest discoveries are often the ones we make within ourselves. Oliver let out a long, quiet breath, feeling a warmth spread through him. His hands trembled as he turned another page, this one filled with drawings of places he could only dream of visiting. It was clear now. The sketches in the book were more than just drawings. They were windows into the limitless potential of his own imagination. The magic, he realized, wasn't in the key. It was in his ability to dream without boundaries, to see the world not as it was, but as it could be. The room seemed to glow brighter now, as though the very walls were infused with the energy of the stars themselves. Oliver felt a quiet, confident joy rising within him. He could feel his dreams taking shape, swirling around him like constellations in the night sky. They were his to create, his to explore, and the journey was just beginning. Oliver carried the book home, its weight both reassuring and unfamiliar. He could feel the cool air of the night slipping away as he walked down the quiet streets of Everstead. The usual stillness of the town, once comforting, now felt full of new meanings, as if it had transformed into something greater in the span of a single evening. Each step he took felt heavier with the knowledge that something important had changed inside him. The key, the note, the chest. It was as though they were pieces of a puzzle that had finally come together. And yet, there was no grand conclusion, no dramatic finale. Just the soft pull of understanding that something small, something quiet, was waiting to be uncovered. When Oliver arrived home, he took a moment to stand at the door, looking up at the night sky, the stars still shining faintly despite the glow of the approaching dawn. For the first time, he felt connected to them, as if his own ideas were a part of that vast, endless universe. Inside, his room was the same as it had always been. Books scattered across his desk, pencils and papers piled up in a haphazard way, half-finished sketches that seemed to whisper stories of their own. But now, to Oliver, this room felt different. The familiar surroundings had taken on a sense of possibility, like they were waiting for him to discover something new. He placed the book on his desk and opened it once more. The soft glow from the pages reflected in his eyes, and for a moment, he simply stared at the intricate sketches inside. They were beautiful in a way that words couldn't quite explain. Constellations drawn with delicate lines, landscapes filled with hidden wonders, and tiny notes written in shimmering ink, reminding him over and over again, "Dream big. Your imagination is the key." As he ran his fingers over the pages, Oliver felt something inside him stir, something warm, like the feeling of being wrapped in a soft blanket after a long day. His mind was no longer clouded with uncertainty. Instead, it was clear, focused on the simple truth that had been revealed to him. His imagination held the answers. With a sense of calm determination, he reached for a pencil and began to draw. The pencil felt almost weightless in his hand, as if it were an extension of his thoughts. At first, he sketched the clock tower, the same one that had guided him to this point. The lines of the tower seemed to stretch out, glowing softly as though it were more than just a building, but a beacon leading him toward something larger. Oliver's pencil moved freely across the page, and with every stroke, he felt the familiar weight of self-doubt begin to lift. The glow from the sketches seemed to infuse the room with a quiet, peaceful energy. It was as if the act of creating, of bringing his ideas to life, was the very thing that made the world feel brighter. He drew the streets of Everstead, the ones he had walked so many times before, but now they looked different. They weren't just cobblestones and lamplights. They were pathways to adventure, with each turn filled with mystery, each corner holding a promise of something beautiful. The houses that lined the streets seemed to shine softly in his drawing, their windows glowing like tiny stars. As he moved on to the next sketch, Oliver decided to draw the stars, the ones that had always filled the sky above Everstead, but had never felt so close before. He drew them in the same way the book had shown him, in delicate constellations that seemed to shimmer and shift on the page, just as they had in his mind. He could feel the magic in each star, a magic that he now knew was his to wield. The more he drew, the more alive his room became. The light from the paper seemed to spill out, casting soft glows on the walls. It was as if the room itself was becoming part of the world Oliver had created. The stars in his drawing didn't stay on the page. They floated upward, soft and glowing, filling the air around him with a quiet radiance. The clock tower, too, seemed to stretch across the room, its silhouette casting a faint shadow on the walls, as though it were reaching out to touch the corners of his world. The feeling inside Oliver grew stronger, more certain. He had always known that his drawings had a power, something that made them special. But now, it was clearer than ever. The true magic was not in the things he drew, but in the act of creation itself. His ideas, his dreams, had the ability to shape the world, to bring light to the darkness, and to guide him forward in ways he had never imagined. By the time Oliver set his pencil down, the first light of dawn had crept into the sky. The stars, now glowing faintly on his paper, seemed to dim as the world around him brightened. But the warmth of the glow still lingered in his chest, a quiet reminder of the adventure he had just experienced. The feeling wasn't gone. It was inside him now, waiting to be carried forward into whatever came next. Oliver sat back in his chair, his hands resting lightly on the desk. He glanced at the window, where the soft pinks and oranges of the morning sky were slowly giving way to the full light of day. The town of Everstead was still, its quiet streets awaiting the bustle of a new day. But to Oliver, it felt like the start of something bigger, something he was ready to explore. He knew that his journey wasn't over. The magic he had discovered in the clock tower, the book, the key, it wasn't something that could be locked away or forgotten. It was now a part of him, a part of everything he created, and the future stretched out before him, full of endless possibilities. With a quiet smile, Oliver closed his sketchbook and stood up. The world outside was waiting for him, and he was ready to bring his dreams to life, to share the magic he had discovered, and to keep drawing the world he wanted to create. He took one last look at the drawings on his desk, the soft glow of the pages casting a peaceful light around the room. In that moment, Oliver knew that whatever lay ahead, whatever new discoveries awaited him, he would face them with the same quiet confidence that had carried him through the night. As he turned away from his desk, ready to step into the world outside, the first rays of sunlight filled the room, and for a moment, everything seemed to shimmer with possibility. Oliver smiled. The magic was already inside him, and with that, he opened the door, ready for whatever adventures the day would bring. Now, let's take a moment to think about what we've just experienced. Imagine for a moment that you had a magical sketchbook like Oliver. If you could draw anything at all, what would it be? Would you draw a place you've always dreamed of? Or a creature you've never seen? Maybe a quiet, secret corner of your heart where only you know the way. Imagine your pencil dancing across the page, glowing softly with each stroke as your ideas come to life. What would you create? Perhaps you could try drawing it tomorrow, and who knows, maybe your drawing will be just as magical as the one Oliver made. And what do you think Oliver will do with the drawings he's created? Do you think he'll share them with someone special? Perhaps someone who has always believed in his dreams, someone who might just see the magic inside them too. What do you think will happen next? Will Oliver discover more about himself through his sketches? Or will he find that the journey has just begun? There's so much waiting for Oliver, and for you too. The stories we tell ourselves are powerful, and sometimes all it takes is a little spark of magic to see what we're truly capable of. So, dream big, little one. There are adventures waiting just beyond the stars, and tomorrow night we might just uncover another secret together. What do you think? What will you draw? What would you like to create tomorrow, or the next day? Let's hold on to that feeling, that spark of possibility, and see where it leads. If you loved Oliver's journey tonight, then you know that sometimes the greatest adventures lie just beyond the edge of what we can see, waiting for us to step forward with a little courage and curiosity. As we say goodnight, remember, every story has its beginning, and every dream its own secret path to follow. Tomorrow, when the stars come out again, join us for another magical journey. Who knows where it might lead? What new secrets will be uncovered? Perhaps the next adventure is just waiting for you to find it. Sweet dreams, little dreamer. And remember, the answers you seek are already within you, quietly waiting for the right moment to be discovered. Close your eyes now, let your heart rest, and trust that tomorrow will bring its own new possibilities.